Okay, before we start the show, a little disclaimer. Damage Control Podcasting is an attempt at an entertaining look at storytelling. We are just dudes, sometimes ladies. We are professionally unprofessional. We might go blue, but never offensive. We might be crass, but never attack anyone. Tune in and listen, and please just have fun. Fair enough?
I think it.
All right.
I'm always a dude. I'm not sometimes a lady.
I can't promise the
Up here, Mike. You never know. Okay. Welcome to the 5th episode of Damage Control. Rewrite, reshoot, redesign. Taking genres, ideas, and conventions of filmmaking, and we try to do them better. September 8th, 2017 marks the release of the second live-action adaptation of Stephen King's It, which is also the 62nd Stephen King adaptation, not counting TV, which is tonight's topic, book adaptations into film. Don't be looking. All right.
It's like I can read your chicken scratch.
Pop quiz. I'm going to name a book. I'm going to name the title of the book. You name the movie.
Do we need to introduce ourselves?
Not yet.
Okay.
They usually come after the
Does it come after the... Okay.
Well, you know what? Yeah. This is Adam.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm
Just
trying to
Adam
remember
like
how these
Prince?
go, man.
I'm Adam.
I'm sorry I interrupted. Please, pop quiz me.
Professionally unprofessional. I'm Adam.
Daniel Newkirk.
Mike Stanford.
Rob DeVerge.
Andrew Recker.
Nick Jenkins.
Okay. I'm going to name the title of the book. You name the movie. Okay? Heart of Darkness.
I don't read Stephen King.
No.
That's
I don't
that
know.
is not Stephen King. I don't think.
Joseph Conrad.
Apocalypse Now. My posse don't do homework.
Alternate version of the Breakfast Club?
Dangerous Minds.
Oh, it's close. I was too
Okay.
I would rather see a Breakfast Club remake
Right.
called My Posse Don't Do Homework.
Nothing Lasts Forever. I'm going to be really disappointed because this movie's been brought up a couple times. Nothing Lasts Forever.
These are books, right?
Yes, these are the title of the books. You name the title of the movie that it's adapted.
Anybody read books?
I occasionally.
This podcast.
How
is
much of the
suck.
classics?
Nothing Lasts Forever is Die Hard.
Okay.
No, that was called the no. I've got the no.
I looked it up on the internet.
Internet
The internet's
bad.
never
I looked it up on the
wrong.
internet.
No,
Look it
internet
up on
bad.
the
I've got
internet,
the no.
guys.
It's
That's some solid
it's called The Detective. I've got the book at home.
Nothing Lasts Forever.
Okay.
He's
Is it
got.
the
We got Google.
The sequel
We got
up.
to, is
Google.
it, it may
We
be
got
the
Google.
sequel to The Detective. Then.
Okay,
Does that
we'll continue while Google's
Okay.
Google. Shoeless Joe.
mean- the Amen Out.
Field of Dreams. The Hellbound Heart. The Hellbound Heart. Hellraiser. The Body.
That's Stand By Me.
All right. Who goes
We
there?
got one.
Who goes there? The Thing. Oh man.
Cricket.
Oh come on, guys. we can remember for you wholesale.
That's Total Recall.
Okay. Fire in the Hole.
Uh,
Hint: this one's a TV show, not a movie. Justified. The last one. Ratman's Notebook. Oh come on, Willard.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, I would have gotten all those if you had better handwriting.
Was he right on Die Hard?
No, I couldn't find it.
Oh, okay.
So.
Anyways, so with it coming out, it raked in 117 million opening, which is the largest September opening. Books being adapted from film are nothing new. Some of the earliest ones were Cinderella in 1899, Trilby and Little Billy in 1896, Death of Nancy Sykes in 1897, and the Edison Studios version of Frankenstein in 1910. So, as always, do we like book adaptations? Questions, comments?
Not always.
I think it really depends on the book, but for the most part, I've enjoyed most of the adaptations as long as you can divorce them from the book itself. You have to understand that some things that work phenomenally well in the book do not work well at all in the movie. And if you can't grab that same feeling, then the movie needs to change to elaborate on that feeling. There's a lot of controversy about a controversial scene that happens in It that is not making...
I'll bring that up.
You bring that up? Okay.
Yeah, I'll bring that up. We'll come back to that one. Mike?
But, it depends on the book and it depends on the movie. I mean, if it's a book that hasn't got a lot of play, I mean, and the director can go wild and take the idea and make it into a great film, then yeah. If it's a popular book and then they totally destroy it, then no. I mean, if you.
But you're a fan of Harry Potter. What's your?
I think the Harry Potter movies are perfect.
Yeah.
And I've read all. I actually just finished reading the books again because I had that contest last weekend. So I've watched all the movies and read all the books, and I every change that the director's made, and once again that this was a part of J.K. Rowling's contract that she had creative control over the movies and casting control over the movies when and she had to be consulted about everything. So her vision for the books was kept pretty solid for the movies.
I didn't like some of the things that were cut out, like.
Well, but you got to remember you got to cut things out for running time. You can't.
But some of the important things, like Snape, for example, spoilers here. When it turns out in the end he was a good guy all along, they didn't really explain his backstory too well. We know he was bullied by James Potter and the Marauders, but we didn't see anything beyond that.
They did most of it in flashbacks. So I thought they did pretty well with it in
and
the
his
movies.
romance, which was supposed to be his whole motivation, was kind of cut down to that one little beginning scene. We missed the fight that he had with Lily. He called her a mudblood. That severed the relationship. And I think I found this.
What are mudbloods?
Muggle-born wizards.
Muggle-born wizards, yeah.
So
but for the running time of those two movies, I mean, I think that they explained it pretty well. That he was just
I think they got their point across, but
right.
There's just some things
they showed enough of the incidents and flashbacks, but yeah. And what was I you made me lose my train of thought.
Come on, Nick.
That's what I'm best at. Distracting.
Okay, and then again on the popular books that are completely destroyed, and that would be The Hobbit.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes, I did some internet stuff on it, but I don't know anything else.
That was just a money train, and they took what should have been a really simple little film and turned it into 3 very long movies that.
They seem to they really stretched that out and added a lot of extra stuff into The Hobbit.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed the films, but like I said, you got to really divorce it from the book.
Right.
I mean.
When it's a book that's sells millions, everybody's read. I mean, your core audience, the people that are going to come to see your movie, are people that have read the book and they want to see it live on the big screen. You gotta respect the source material.
Maybe for the first movie.
Okay, hey, hang on. Before we get too deep in this, Robert, what's your opinion on it? I'm trying to control the flow better.
I understand.
I've been listening, and I'm like,
you think it goes off the rails a little bit?
Yeah.
It's like my D&D games.
It's kind of like it's like they were alluding to. It's hard when you have a really popular book series and you've got millions of fans. You're not going to be able to appease everyone. It's just not going to happen. So I feel if you can stay as close to the original content as possible and try to take your liberties of making it entertaining where you can. I understand a mixture of the balance can be very difficult. It's either going to ruin your movie or it's going to excel it. That's a tough spot to be in. So, but unfortunately, I read more nonfiction than fiction. So none of my books really good.
There's all right. I didn't bring any of that up, but there are movies based on actual events. Have there any of the books, nonfiction books you read, been turned into movies? Like Dunkirk.
I thought Black Hawk Down was exceptionally good.
Yeah, Black Hawk Down.
Is that based
Faithful
on,
to the source material.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, like down to the dialogue.
Yeah.
Like they bring up things that they remember saying in the book, and then they Ridley Scott put that in the
This
script.
is fucking unprecedented. Andy Record loves a movie.
We've had this talk, and I reassure him that there are movies that I like, and he always thinks that that's not true. I'm like, every time I thumbs up a movie,
There's your
he
review
always
show
like,
right there.
They forget.
Andy loves a movie.
Him and Nick both forget all movies that I ever liked.
Well, be fair. You had a lot more things than you liked.
That's because most movies suck.
Nick?
Oh,
I'll cut you off.
No, you're fine, man. You're good.
Good.
Go on.
Nick?
Go.
Well, you mentioned Black Hawk Down. Do you particularly care for fictional books being adapted?
Well, I think it's a lot easier to do nonfiction into a movie because you can critique the facts rather than critiquing the art.
Right.
So I think that's a lot easier to do because you're.
But you can't adapt. You can't. It's hard. It's easier to change some of those stuff because some stuff in reality isn't cinematic, whereas taking a fiction book it's still cinematic, but you can change it to where you can't change actual events without people blowing their top.
No, I'm just saying it's easier to make a movie about non-fictional events because what I mean is you're hitting on things that are, you don't have to worry about artistic intent. Like, what did the author mean? Why did they leave that? That's critical to the story. You're kind of being a faithful reporter of the facts.
Doug?
That's my thought.
Nick? Like them, dislike them?
I think they mostly do a good job at adapting. I mean, every once in a while you get a piece of trash like, oh man, I'm trying to think of a bad adaptation now.
See? Well, I got that list. Okay.
Okay, so before we move on, I did the Google search, and it sounds like the detective is not the book that made Die Hard. I couldn't confirm it, but the synopsis for the detective book doesn't sound anything like Die
it's
Hard.
not. It's not. But if you look in the opening credits of Die Hard, it says based on the detective by that author. Yeah.
Actually, I think I do remember that.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah.
Thrown down gauntlet.
I bought that's the whole reason I bought the book. The book has nothing to do with Nakatomi Tower or any of that.
As usual,
Yeah, it doesn't
someone's
sound
not
any.
coming
but
back.
that's-
Doesn't sound anything
That's
like.
the,
It's-
that's
it's
the
not-
book that
it's
they
not your
bought, and
fault
that they
that the internet
ended
failed
up
you.
making
It's
the movie
okay.
out of.
Okay, let us know in the comments below. Someone pop in their Die Hard. I don't watch
Please,
until Christmas.
please, someone comment besides my mom. Just I don't care what it is. Just comment.
Hey, don't talk bad about your mom. She's a lovely woman.
Yeah, she's very lovely.
Actually, to be fair, I've only seen it from behind.
Yes. Okay, is it hard watching a flick based on a book that you love? Because you're reading it in your voice. You picture the character saying it the way you say it in your head. Is it you? Because you're talking about earlier about separating yourself. Is that hard for you guys?
I haven't really had a big problem with that.
Dude, I got a
commonly
huge problem.
Comic books are books.
No, let's leave. Okay, let's leave.
That guy doesn't sound like me at all.
I find that the novel, if I read it first, I can retain like what I envision the characters to look like and be like and all that, and then watch the movie and keep them separate. But if I get to see the movie first before I read the book, it completely colors how I read the book, and I can't help but see the actors as those people, and it just ruins it for me.
Okay.
So you can see that. Yeah, if you see the movie first, it kind of like shapes your destination for where the book is going. So
Yeah.
it almost ruins it.
Has
Yeah.
anyone seen a movie they prefer? Has anyone preferred the movie over the book?
I know I have.
Jaws.
Yeah.
Just-
Anyone?
Hannibal.
Do androids dream of electric sleep?
No,
That's
man.
it.
Come on. But
Electric-
Blade Runner is a great movie, but
No, I'm saying Blade Runner is better than the book.
No, I'm saying Blade
Better
Runner is
story.
good, but the short story's awesome, man.
Well, it's still awesome, but Blade Runner rules over it. I mean, come on, dude.
And
You gotta,
if,
you know.
if we bring all things Batman into this, I'm going to bring all things 2001 into this.
Alright.
And 2001 started with a small short story called The Sentinel,
Okay.
which served as a kernel of an idea that
Same author?
Kubrick from
Arthur
Clark,
Sentinel?
yeah,
Oh, Clark.
that served as the baseline idea for 2001. But of course, Kubrick takes it in a completely different thing. But that short story serves as kind of the inspiration. And then it turns into 2001, and then of course, Clark co-writes 2001, the novel adaptation, which becomes another yin to his yang kind of thing for that movie.
Okay.
And I don't know. I'm not sure where I was going with that.
I've got one.
the short story thing. Sometimes I think is a better thing than trying to take a whole novel and whittle it down into a movie, and you just get people pissed off.
Well, I'm bringing
taking
that
short
up.
stories,
Yeah.
which are better.
I absolutely agree
Put
with
a
it.
pin in that idea.
Movie better than the
Later.
book. The Running Man.
Oh yeah.
Running Man was a very fun movie. I like
Yeah.
that. I like
Way,
it a lot.
and it's way better than the Stephen King story, the Bachman book, I should say.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, yeah, I totally agree with Andy. I think actually we should see more short stories adapted into movies because, yeah, you lose so much content. Like, you can't trim a 1,000-page book down into a 2-hour movie. You just can't. Not without completely butchering emotions and character development. I would 100% agree. I think that we should see a lot more short stories turned into movies before we ever start seeing novels.
And it seems to me that the short story gives the idea, or gives Hollywood the ability to be creative, rather than trying to just kind of make a movie out of content that some author's already written for you. It's like, well, now as a director or as a writer, you have to turn this into a screenplay, and it makes it more artistic in that sense to me than trying to chisel down a novel that's just going to piss people off. Like, well, where's that at?
Well,
Absolutely.
that brings me to my next question, because the idea is for the podcast is how to write. So, what does it take to adapt? What can you leave out, or what can you add? There's always fan service. So before we get into that, the internet, not me, brought up. I looked up some famous changes from novels to movies. Okay, so Fight Club. In the movie, Tyler Durden meets the narrator in a plane. In a book, the two meet at a nude beach where Tyler is making a sundial, and I do believe there's a reference to his penis in that. The rubber band castration scene in the movie is in an interrogation room. In the book, it's in the back of a school bus. Starship Troopers, they barely had any armor in the movie, and they famously had exoskeleton suits in the book.
It was an awful
Iron
movie.
Gorillas. Anyway,
It's an awful book adaptation.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I loved the movie for what it is, and Space Marine shooting bugs. I loved that.
Yeah.
But you're right. It is a terrible adaptation of
The
the
political
book.
commentary is pretty well gone.
Absolutely. They turned it into an action film rather
Yeah,
than
right.
satire.
I didn't know this, but Shrek is based off of a book.
Yeah, I heard that.
In the movie, he speaks with a Scottish accent, and in the book, he speaks in rhyme. I did not know that.
They actually they started off with a different. He had a different accent. And they had to refilm or re-record all of his sessions.
Yeah.
Wasn't Chris Farley originally
Yeah, it started
Shrek?
with Chris Farley. Then he died
Yeah.
after getting 95% of his lines done. Then they brought in Mike Myers. He records it, realizes, hey, this would be better with a Scottish accent. Then he's like, can I do it again?
Yeah,
So he came back and re-recorded.
it cost him some ungodly amount.
And then, okay, so Wizard of Oz, the movie, Oz was entirely a dream based on people in Dorothy's life, and in the book, all of Dorothy's adventures were real. I purposely put this in for Andy because he hates happy endings. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney
I
film.
love that movie.
In the movie, Frollo and Quasimodo fall from a balcony fighting where Phobos,
Phoebus.
thank you, catches Quasimodo. Okay, but in the book, Esmeralda is hanged for murder and witchcraft. Quasimodo pushes Frollo from the balcony as revenge. So the love interest dies. Also, even better, Quasi, as I call him, gives Esmeralda and Phobos his blessing to get married. That happy ending. Okay, in the book, Quasi lies next to Esmeralda's grave and dies. I figured
I got nothing on that.
I think part of that has to do with the adaptation from by Disney,
Yeah.
because you can't do that.
Right.
Like Hunchback of Notre Dame really pushed the borders on what you could do in a Disney film anyway, with
Right.
Frollo
But if you
pretty
look,
much
though-
molesting Esmeralda in that church scene. Like they really pushed the borders they could do already, and I don't think they could do it any further. But there was a few
No.
other live action.
Well, but if you look at the Tarzan animated film, right? Do you remember how that ended with the bad guy? Fell through the trees. You see his shadow. He gets hung. Like he is dead. Neck snapped.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Most people forget that. So Disney can.
Yeah,
Kinda.
Atlantis was pretty violent too. A lot of people died in that one.
Yeah, older films. I mean, and yeah, they were brutal, but I mean, they didn't show. They never killed a Disney princess,
Well,
and they're not going to kill Esmeralda. I mean, Mulan was not Mulan. Pocahontas was the closest one, I think.
She a Disney princess?
Technically, I think any female character is considered a Disney
Princess?
princess.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So-
Okay,
Does she
gotcha.
count
So
because
yes,
she's
Princess
named
Leia is a Disney princess.
I would
Mary
assume
Jane
so.
from Spider-Man is a
Actually-
Disney princess.
Actually, there's a huge thing on Disney princesses, like these strict guidelines. And speaking of Atlantis, originally she was supposed to be part of the official Disney princess lineup, but since Atlantis didn't perform as well in the box office, she kind of got the shaft.
Makes sense.
Okay, has anyone else got any famous changes that they?
Fox and the Hound, going back to Disney. In the film, I like Disney.
Oh, yeah, all right.
In the film, Todd the fox gets to go in the forest with the little vixen fox, and Todd gets to live, or not Todd, Copper lives in the cabin with his master. But in the book, the hunter hunts down Todd, kills his mate and his cubs,
Well, sure.
then continues to chase him around. Then the fox dies of exhaustion. Then they force the hunter to go into a retirement home, and before he goes to the retirement home, pops Copper in the head, then goes to the retirement
All
home.
the Disney classic fairy tale movies are in the original stories have a drag endings.
Well, they're all based
I
off
love
of
the
Grimm.
Grimm
aren't
fairy
yeah,
tales.
they're based off
Yeah.
Grimm. So like Little Mermaid dies in the end to do
Turns
that
into sea
story,
foam.
and you know
We
Well,
probably
that
just have a
one
whole
that
thing
one
on
wasn't. Little Mermaid wasn't Grimm's though. That was.
that's Hans Christian Andersen.
Yeah,
but she
yeah.
dies. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Has anyone ever seen the original cut of that where the preacher has a boner in the wedding sequence?
Oh yeah, the minister.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen
It
it,
was
and
just his knee.
yeah, they've discussed it, and like Disney has officially come out and said that it was a graphical thing. Like it was supposed to be like wind, like blowing his cape or his knee as he shifted his weight or something. Like it wasn't supposed to be. Not
Sure,
supposed
That's
to
what they're
be
gonna
phallic,
say.
yeah.
What
Just
about
like
the cock
the,
on the Aladdin artwork? You know.
Or what about the naked lady in the back of the rescuers?
That one's true though.
Yeah.
that one. And just like
you can't say
in,
that was a graphical error by an animator.
Yeah, the
some perverted guys like.
in Lion King, when Simba flops down, it supposedly spells sex. It
But it's
actually
just
spells
SFX.
SFX.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I think that we kind of twist and make exceptionally dirty out of Disney films that really aren't that way.
Okay, well, I brought this topic up because it just came out.
Because you want to make a dirty Disney film?
I love dirty Disney. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there's an industry
There
for
we
that.
Going back to our second episode, gritty reboots. This is a gritty reboot, dirty like 1970s behind a green door style Disney movies.
I'd be down.
That's next podcast. Anyway, so it came out. Did you said you saw it?
I haven't seen the new one. I actually went out and for the first time bought and watched the original
You
It.
should say I
I
want to
saw it last
borrow
night.
it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was going to want a copy of it anyway, so I
Oh.
found a copy of it at Walmart. I actually have kind of a funny anecdote, and so, yes, I've never seen it, and I want to see the remake. Probably going to see it tomorrow. And so I pop it in Friday, and I'm watching it. And spoilers for it, if you haven't seen it. The first, at about the 90-minute mark, the film comes to an abrupt ending, or at least what I thought was an abrupt ending, when one of the main characters commits suicide. And so I'm watching it, one of the characters commits suicide, and then I think it's Stan.
Stan in the
Yeah,
bathtub
Stan
where he draws
kills.
it in the blood.
Oh,
that
yeah, okay,
thing-
sorry.
sorry.
so-
Yeah, you're
the
right.
end of the first episode. It was
Right.
a two-part.
My fault.
And that was the problem is
Yeah.
as I watched it, I watched to that point, and my DVD kicks me back to the main screen, and I'm sitting there going, "What the hell?" Like
that
people
it?
talked about, people talked about how great this movie was, and people talked about how great Tim Curry's performance was, and I'm like, "That's how this damn thing ends." And I was so mad. It was like 5 minutes, just fuming, angry, stomp around my apartment. And I'm like, that can't be the end. Like, how are people raving about this movie? And sure enough, it's one of those DVDs that you flip over, and the second half of the movie's on the other side.
The important part here, you bought a DVD?
Yes.
Okay, just check.
Well,
I
that,
actually bought 5 of them because it was one of those Walmart 5-packs that had
5 packs
5
of it.
movies.
the reason why you have to flip it over because it's a transfer from the Laserdisc. Laserdisc stage, you had to flip it over to.
Really?
Yep.
I was unaware
Was
of
one
that.
a Laserdisc player.
Huh?
Was one a Laserdisc player.
Yeah.
They're fun.
Did any else saw it? Did you say you saw it?
I haven't
No?
seen
I
it.
saw it last night.
Mike,
What, the
come
new
on.
one or the old one?
The
I'm
new
getting-
one?
The
I'm
original.
gearing
I've
up-
seen the original 1,000 times.
It's been out, what,
the
2
new one,
days?
we've had issues
I've
trying
seen
to
it.
see it this weekend.
Come on, guys! You
I
should
saw
have
it last
known
night.
what the
It
topic
was
of the
good.
podcast was.
Dude, I tried.
To be fair, I had no idea.
Yeah,
No one's
you
told
heard-
us.
I actually,
Had I known it was going to be books, I probably wouldn't have shown up.
I was
the guy who
Andy and I
was-
were standing outside the back of the mall waiting for my cohorts to show up, and they got stuck at work last
For
night. And we were
cocaine
out there till
buying?
11:30. So I'm like, "Hey, Andy, you want to do it with me?"
So the
Come
guy
on.
who wasn't even supposed to be here is the only one who saw the movie.
Hey, Andy, have you ever seen it? You want to see it now?
Let's see it. Shut it. Now I'm gearing up to
But-
read the book here, so spoilers, please. Like,
All right,
keep the
no-
spoiler filters on.
Okay.
All die.
There are no clowns in it, Andy, at all.
There are no clues. Okay, so that brings me up to a point I want to bring up. So
One floats.
it has the book it has 1,138 pages, which they compress into, I think the newest one is a 2-hour film.
It's going to be a two-parter.
Yeah.
Right, but it's a 2-hour film at the moment. 'Cause
Right. It's going to be. There's a second part of the film. Though.
yeah, they
Yeah.
just did the kids. That's all they
Right,
did.
and they're going to do the adults later. Yeah.
Right.
So it's
But in
Yeah.
the TV show minus commercials was what, like 3 hours long. It was
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
2-parter as well.
yeah.
The
They
runtime-
tried to do it all in flashbacks, so it's,
Yeah.
it's a little. This one's. I think this one's going to be a little tighter.
Okay, so some of the Andy, cover your ears,
Yeah.
earmuffs. So some of the changes from it, the time period was the late 50s. They changed it to the mid 80s, but that ain't right. That can't be right because the original the Michael Keaton Batman came out in '89, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, reference this.
It's in the marquee.
Yeah.
And they say it's in the mid '80s in the movie. It's on the marquee.
Does it give an actual date?
And Nightmare on Elm Street, I think.
Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
Yeah, not 5.
No, well, the synopsis says mid '80s. They in the movie they do not, but the synopsis.
So technically, they can get away with it then.
Yeah, I mean,
Son of a bitch.
I don't think there was ever a time that I remember watching the first hit movie that the time was ever relevant.
Well, I
Like-
was just mentioning a change.
Okay.
The monsters from the book are not in because it has the clown, it has Pennywise, it has the famous spider, but it also has the leper, the Wolfman.
Yeah, that's they had to debate on that because of the '50s cinema. I mean, if they're doing it in the '80s and not doing it in the '50s, I Was Teenage Werewolf was part of that whole deal. That's the movie they were at when they had that was the cause of the he was
Gotcha.
pulling that out of his mind.
So it
how
qualifies as a-
cool would it be if they updated it and
Brought in Freddy.
brought in Freddy Krueger or
Did you
Jason
Did you see
or
Freddy Krueger's in Ready Player One?
Dude, I was
that would be awesome.
Everything
I
that
love
you've
that
ever
book.
heard of is going to be in Ready Player
How in
One.
the hell are they pulling that off? That's like a legal civil war to get all that
Oh,
stuff.
but they also had was it Deadshot and Harley Quinn in that first
Yeah,
scene, and
the
the
DeLorean's
Doom
in there?
guy, the DeLorean, the Iron
How are
Giant,
they getting all
everyone.
that?
I mean, I imagine that
It just took a lot of licensing.
Right.
Rights.
a lot of licensing and a lot of royalty fees.
All right. Another famous change from the book is the infamous sex scene in the sewer is not there.
No, I
You're
actually
saving that for the uncut
am
DVD.
I'm very, very curious to read that scene in the book. Like, I'm curious about
Yeah, you
going and picking.
pervert.
Yeah, sure. That's my
Read a
fetish.
book.
I'm
Yeah,
really
I'll-
curious to read some Stephen King porn.
hey, I read The Stand, and if I can make it through The Stand and the sex scenes in The Stand, I can deal with this. But because I was curious what the scene was, because no one online is everyone's talking about, oh, this sex scene got cut, but no one's talking about what it is. So I had to do a little bit of research to find out what that scene actually is. And on Stephen King's official website, there's people discussing it, and they talk about how artistic and beautiful it is. And
But are they Stephen
and-
King apologists or are they?
I don't know. It was comment section, so probably yes.
Okay.
But I'm curious to read it so I can make my own opinions about it. But yeah, according to Stephen King's website, it was very artistic, very beautiful. It was not raunchy. It was not triple
Yeah,
X.
What else are you going to
It
call
was.
it? Just some giant slutty sewer gangbang? I mean,
Well,
and I was going to say, what kind of research did you do? Is the FBI going to show up?
Ironically, that's the original name for the book.
It kind of rolls off the tongue.
Let's hit the bars later and see if we can find some chicks to make art with us.
All right, so what does it take to adapt a novel? What are some of the necessities it takes, or what are some of the necessities of adapting a book into a film? So you got to take budget into account, correct? So some of the changes you would have to make would be what, like time periods, characters.
Well, I don't think any of the at this point in time, especially with the Stephen King book, I don't think any of the budget comes into play. I think if anything, they expand the budget and put in, stuff in there that's unnecessary. I don't think the time period change was the time period change is not so much that the 50s were inconvenient. It's that the 80s are more popular.
Right.
Well, I think I'm not the one that came up with this, but I heard that the reason the horror movies were set in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s growing up was because the people making the movies were kids at that age. So the people making the movies now were kids in the 80s and 90s.
Right, but it's also
Right.
like if you look at Stranger Things. I mean, the 80s are huge right now, and it makes more sense to flash back to the 80s.
as long
Well,
as
I think it's more convenient technology-wise. I mean, when you talk about a horror movie, everyone's got a cell phone now. It stops being scary if you can't write out everyone's technology. So when you talk about 80s, when cell phones are exceptionally rare, you get that more real horror feel. Hey, this person is isolated. This person, yes, we can cut the phone lines in the house, and no, there isn't a backup. You know, I feel like you get a more genuine feel because
Yeah, and
technology makes it safe.
I think part of it is also connecting. I want the audience to kind of connect with what's going on in the film. Like, for example, if we go back to the 50s with It, I've never been to a malt shop,
Steak and Shake.
I was just
Some mulch up.
I don't go to Steak and Shake.
I was just going to add.
There goes the steak
That
and
was
shake
going to be my
license.
point.
TCBY, man, they got great malteds.
That was going to be my point, basically, too, is that who's the one paying for the tickets here? Somebody that grew up in the 80s? Somebody that came of age in the 80s? Most likely.
Yeah, but,
So-
but come on, man.
so
You're really limiting yourself by.
I'm not saying that that's how it's got to be for all time.
Right, all right.
I'm saying for
Sorry.
right now, what's going on with why the 80s is so popular is because of the appeal to nostalgia is for the people who have jobs and are working and have the money to pay for the movies. So, like he said, have you never been in a malt shop, right? So why would that ever appeal to me but we remember tape decks and we remember
New Kids on the Block.
slap bracelets and
Right, acid wash
crap like
jeans,
that.
not poodle skirts.
Yeah, right. And our gen would look at that and be like, oh yeah. That's how it makes us feel.
I remember having a skip it.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a
I've
new
never
thing.
done
I've seen that appeal to nostalgia across many different, movies get updated from one generation to another, and they take on the that current decade's technology or whatever.
Is it okay? This is slightly off topic. We're talking about nostalgia. Is it really bad now, or is it just with the internet or whatever? It just seems like it's bad, but it's always been there.
My opinion on
As far as in pop culture, I mean.
for nostalgia's sake, I know a lot of people called my generation the nostalgia era, and because we always seem to be going back to things we knew as a kid, and I think that kind of represents, again, we talk about technology and how quickly the world changes. I mean, the world changes much faster now than it did in the 80s. I mean, I remember when I grew up, I had VCRs, and I saw the first DVD player come out. And now, like Robert said, oh my God, you bought a DVD. What are you doing with your life? Because, DVDs are starting to get phased out, and even Blu-rays, we're going to all digital media. So in my life, home movie technology has gone through so many iterations, and the same thing with music. It's moving so much faster and progressing so much more differently than it did between the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
You think music is progressing?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we moved from records to cassettes.
I was talking artistically.
We
not.
went to drum machines to.
Vinyl's coming back, man.
Yeah, I have
And in the
record
hipsters,
player.
yeah.
Well, that just goes back to that retro
Which
thing we were talking
again
about
is going
earlier.
to retro nostalgia,
yeah.
I actually just pre-ordered a
In my
record
face.
on Amazon.
Does anyone else find it sad when you go to a Walmart or FYE and you see like a big old bin of DVDs? Like that makes me I feel sad for
I feel sad.
No,
I feel sad.
I feel sad for the earth.
I feel sad for my wallet. I dive through that thing looking for
See,
movies all the time.
I just get upset because I spent so much money on DVDs when they were super popular,
Yeah.
and I have a collection.
Right.
But aren't you proud of that collection? Though?
No,
Like,
I'm very proud of my collection because I own every Jean-Claude Van Damme movie ever made. So that's awesome.
Oh
for me.
man, you got when we do '80s action flicks. Oh,
That
Yes.
Street Fighter.
I just feel sad that I'm in a Walmart when I'm in a Walmart.
no, but what I'm saying,
If you're a pajama
There
pants,
goes the Walmart sponsorship.
G Fernigan. Anyway, real quick before I get back on topic. Okay, so you're proud of your DVD collection, but it's getting to the point where, I think it's cool to go over someone's house and see a wall of DVDs or books or comic books, or now it's getting to the point here's my collection. It's 1 terabyte of memory. Check it out. That's dumb.
It's obnoxious.
My friend with a PC does that. He's like, look at my Steam account.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
having choices when I went on an 8-hour
I mean,
flight.
Well, I mean, it's definitely more convenient.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not
yeah,
lying,
but what's
like-
nice about it is, as someone with a family and 2 little boys, it's great that I can just load up Vudu, and I've got whatever movies on there, or Netflix, whatnot. It's always there. I mean, 1, I don't want them to watch my movies anyway, but 2, it's just
There are
technology.
some kid-friendly Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
I suppose, like Replicant, because it was on USA.
What's the one with the
Time
Dennis
Cop's
Rodman?
kid friendly.
No, it's got a nude scene.
not.
Why isn't it? Why isn't that? What happens in Time
well,
Cop?
why
It's
does
not
that make it not
kid-friendly?
kid friendly?
Well, because right
Okay,
now,
well,
I mean,
if you're me, it's fine.
I don't want. I don't have a problem with my 4-year-old, seeing Van Damme make sweet love to a lady and learn the finer points of being a real man. But then when Mom comes home and he's like, "Mom, I saw this guy's butt," and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "This kid's, I don't know, watching Cinemax or something."
I don't know.
I'm falling off on a 4-year-old.
I don't know. I was reading the Bible.
I'm my way back to the library.
Okay. So, budget isn't a concern when adapting. What about
overall,
legal?
yeah.
What about legal issues? Because we were talking about Ready Player One, which is a book.
Yeah.
That had to have been a legal nightmare.
Oh yeah.
When they were making.
No, I think it was so popular that all the studios jumped on it and were ready to sign over so they could sell merchandise.
But how popular is the Marvel universe, and how much of a civil war was it just to get
Spider-Man.
No,
Spider-Man?
that was it was a long negotiation. They've been fighting over it for decades. But it was a long negotiation that they finally caved in because Marvel was doing so much better with their movies than Sony was.
But there's got to be okay. So
And once there was a concession, Spider-Man is still the most marketable character worldwide.
oh yeah,
Batman's number 2.
Spider-Man sells
Spider-Man,
more toys than
Spider-Man sells more merchandise than any other
right.
character.
I agree. Yeah. Okay.
And so
Second
once
is Batman
once they were
beat
willing to
Batman
cave in on a little merchandise money, sure, they're going to do whatever they want.
But okay, what about other legal issues like when they were making Fight Club? The Helena Bonham Carter's character was Marla Singer. So when you have names like that, like if you have a character's name and it's set in a certain spot, like they had to go in to the directory and find out how many Marla Singers are in the world. So you go in, say you're making a movie and you make a movie about Daniel, your character's name is Daniel Newkirk. So you go in and find out how many Daniel Newkirks are. Say there's 2,000. Well, they're not going to give a shit because if you go in and sue that company, you're going to be like, there's 2,000 Daniel Newkirks. How do you know we're not writing about you? But there was only one Marla Singer in the world, and they had to go get permission from her to use her name, or otherwise they'd have to change it from the book.
Okay.
I think you get a lot more flexibility in writing medium. Like you can talk about, celebrities and things that go on, like the I Am a Teenage Werewolf in the It, or Rita Hayworth in Shawshank Redemption. I think you can do all of that in the books, but when you start moving to cinema, you get a lot of legal problems with that kind of copyright transfer. And I think that's more of a problem with the copyright laws than anything.
So you can put whatever product placement you want, Jeep Renegades, in a book, but
As long as you're talking favorably, I believe so.
because I believe in 30 Days a Night, the scene where the little girl vampire comes out and Josh Hartnett swings at her and they end up decapitating her. Pepsi, it was Pepsi Max. They were trying to push their new soda, Pepsi Max. Pepsi refused to do it because they didn't want a little girl getting her head cut off. But they were okay with just Pepsi regular. They're like, you can cut her head off in front of Pepsi regular.
This decapitation was
Most-
sponsored by Pepsi.
Most books have a title page that says all characters in this book are fictional. And
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean,
most
I
of
don't
them
know why
disclaimer.
movies can't have.
Movies do too.
Movies do.
All movies
Yeah,
do.
TV
Very
Well,
Yeah.
it's not at
Yeah.
the beginning; it's at the very end. All
Right.
all
Right.
works
So
contain
then,
this.
what is the issue with the Marla Singer thing? Like, why?
Because they had the Fox had to go in and they found out there was one Marla Singer in the world, so they had to get her their
It
permission.
just sounds like there's more to that than.
I would imagine that she had copyrighted her name.
No,
That's the issue.
Well, Marla Singer, the character Marla, I don't know if you ever read the book. She is not looked upon very fairly, so they didn't want her to be like come back and be like, this is written about me. You're what's it called, defaming my character.
Yeah, then you start talking about libel and slander, and those rules are always very, very messy.
So they ended up getting her to sign some sort of legal document. So
Waiver.
Well, it can affect them. I mean, you think of the guy in Alabama who's George Hitler. I mean, he's going to get picked on, and people are going to throw things at him.
Is
So-
Hitler a family? I mean,
It is absolutely.
There's still Hitlers around.
Yep, there's little Bobby Hitler and Johnny Hitler running around.
Is Adolf used anymore? Not Adolf.
No,
is
nobody
Adolf
uses Adolf. Well, Adolf is used
As a name.
as a
Right.
name, but not in
It's still-
conjunction
it's still
with Hitler.
around?
Yeah,
I'm
Dolph
sure
Lundgren.
Oh, he's Adolf, short for Adolf.
I'm
Of course it is.
I'm sure there's an Adolf Hitler walking around.
Yes,
somewhere.
God, what kind of parents are?
Vin Diesel is Irving Diesel. He shortened his name.
Well, Irvin, but I mean like
Yeah.
Adolf.
Yeah, they shortened it. Dolph Lundgren was Adolf Lundgren. Yeah, that's
Oh.
Dolph is the
Oh, yeah.
shortened. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
My real name is Michael, not Mike.
Really? Okay. Okay. Another necessity. What about compression? We were talking about either. What about compression of story? Is it easier to take a 1,000-page book like it make it into an episodic TV?
Well,
Or is that smarter
okay,
way?
you've read King, right?
Not it, but yeah. But
You read King. Okay,
Yeah.
King pads the fuck out of his
Oh, yeah.
books. He's from back in the day when he was trying to make a living, and they paid by the word, and in the novels they paid by the page count. So
Right.
everything, it could be compressed easily down to 400 pages, tell the exact same story, and be just as scary. So that's not that hard to take. I think there's more padding going on in the movies than there actually is in the book, because it's like when you're reading it, it's, oh dear God, come on, all right, oh, then something happens, King he's really terrible about padding his books, even to this day.
I think he does pad, and he has a lot of stuff that you could probably cut and still get the same story. But a lot of times, I don't think you get the same connection to the characters. I read The Stand, and The Stand has a lot of scenes. You don't need them, but like the scenes with Harold and his romance with Fran. Are very, very different in the book, and you don't get that same kind of dirtbag feeling about Harold if you don't have those scenes, or Lloyd, or Trash Can, or the kid who they completely cut
There's
out.
a character named Trash Can?
Trash Can Man.
Yep, he's an
Matt Frewer played him.
arsonist
Really?
in the series.
I haven't read. Yeah.
Oh, you should see that. You should watch the show is great.
Is that Gary Sinise?
Yeah, absolutely, Gary Sinise.
Matt Frewer played Trash Can Man.
Oh.
Yeah. The adaptation of it, while they changed quite a bit from the books, the movie mini series is
Excellent.
great. I watch it every summer.
Yeah, I do too. Great stuff.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Huh?
About the time that
Yes.
the plague hits in the storyline, I pop in the DVD or I read the book or the comic book adaptation. I do something with The Stand every year because I
Yeah,
absolutely
it's
love
what,
it.
4 VHS tapes long, right?
I have the DVDs. Thank you.
How many DVDs is it?
I think it's 4 DVDs.
Anyone else? No?
Well, I had it's off. It's within topic, but off.
That's what we're best. That's what we're best at.
There's something interesting about Jurassic Park. 'Cause that's
Oh
one-
yeah, that was on there. I didn't.
That's one of my favorite books.
Fuck, I should have tapped it.
And but the thing that I learned recently is that because I was watching a documentary with Crichton talking, and he said, Steven Spielberg called me up because this was at the time or around there, and he goes, oh, what are you working on? He goes, oh, I'm writing a book on dinosaurs. Oh, I want to buy it. I'll buy the rights to it already. So it was like this. We kind of have this vision that books get out there, they're published, people read them, develop a fan base, and then some Hollywood producer's like, "Oh, let's make this into a movie." That's totally not how
He did the
it
same
works.
thing with Ready Player One. He bought it before it was published.
Yeah, it's
You know,
already so. Like what I'm saying is that these authors that are, they're good at their craft. Obviously, they're going to write a good book, but they're also writing it with movie in mind, right from the
But
beginning.
you know who else does that? Mark Millar.
Who's that?
And he's right and he's not right on the Millar thing, guys. So I looked it up and I sent him a link. It's Miller and every other podcast and every other person that interviews him. But I found a French interview. I linked him to that the other day. Yeah, Mark Millar.
There's a comic book artist named Mark Miller. I've been pronouncing it Mark Millar, and I made a dick out of myself last podcast. 'Cause I said it, and these guys are looking at me like, "What is he talking about?" But anyway, he's famous for only writing comic books, knowing that they're going to become movies. Like he doesn't.
Yeah. So that's something that definitely kind of. I won't say it taints the story, but it kind of does in a way. You're reading a novel that supposedly has some sort of artistic intent to it, and you're like, oh, what's the greater meaning here? And then, the greater meaning was to have the rights purchased and made into a movie. You never really know what you're reading. Are you reading something that's just gonna kind of the long screenplay, or are we reading something that's an actual work of art from the author's mind? I don't know.
I think that really depends on what it is. I mean, Jurassic Park, I still think is a fantastic book.
Absolutely.
And I don't think the buying of the movie modified the book any.
What are some of the changes?
Grant.
Is that Sam Neill?
There's a bunch of scenes that are cut out, like where they're meeting, the boardroom meetings, the stuff like that. All the business stuff gets completely axed.
Hammond and Malcolm get killed, but then Malcolm doesn't in the sequel because convenience.
Malcolm is
Well,
Goldblum.
that's the
Whenever you're ready for me to go off on Ready Player One, let me know.
Well, hang on. I interrupted Daniel's.
Oh.
I'll let him finish Jurassic Park, and then you can go on right there.
But I think when you start talking about certain other movies, honestly, the one that comes to mind is 50 Shades. Like that. I mean,
Really? Is that right?
You are such a pervert.
when you're talking
at
about
least it's not
films
kids
that
this
have
time.
no artistic value.
God.
Trying to make it artistic. You're that guy.
No, I'm saying there is no art.
I have not
It
read
is-
that book, but I have seen the movie, and the movie is awful.
I haven't done either.
Whatever,
sell the products.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think when you start talking about honestly trash romance novels like 50 Shades or other other books that really don't have that kind of greater meaning, then yeah, that it completely taints when you move from into the cinema.
It just feels like you're reading, like I said, a long screenplay.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious why Mike hates Ready Player One. I have the book at home. I haven't read it yet.
You
I've read the first
I should wait
chapter
for
and
you
I
to
love
read
it.
it so we can both yell at it.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're done with Mike.
No, I really hope that. I mean, I know there are already. I've already heard reports that there are going to be a ton of changes. And I've seen the trailer, and Spielberg is changing up a lot of it and adding as much crap in as he possibly can. But I read Ready Player One, and I thought that I might have missed something because I listened to the audiobook. Most condescending piece of crap I've ever read in my life. It is. It's a book about a book that takes place in the future, about the '80s, read like story time for a 4-year-old who's never seen anything on the '80s before. It is the worst piece of fan service bull crap I've ever read in my life.
I enjoyed every second of it.
I absolutely despise. You weren't from the '80s though. That's the thing. I grew up in the '80s. You don't have to explain to me the motivations of Ferris Bueller. Okay, I've seen the goddamn movie.
Is He-Man in it?
He-Man is not in it, but he might be in the Spielberg version.
Okay. All right.
So you might be there. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, and maybe maybe a good Batman will be in it too.
Oh, yes. Huh? Okay. Anyone else, real quick? No.
So on Ready Player One, I think one thing that Mike is missing is that time marches on.
No. Okay.
I did not live through the '80s either. I was born in '86, so I do not have any memory.
But you're aware of it.
I know it exists. Yes,
I'm older than you.
Absolutely. You are.
You've. I am 47.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, you're older than me.
Yeah.
We're the same age, close to the same age.
35.
Oh, you're older
And
than
I
me.
am the young.
Wow. Okay. I didn't. You're way more mature than me. I thought you were.
Yeah, I was thinking you were
All
All
my
right,
age.
would you rather watch Beauty and the Beast, or would you rather have your mom read it to you at bedtime?
What is she wearing?
Exactly. So
50
this
Shades
is
of
that's
Grey
Ready,
is what
that's
she's
that's
wearing.
Ready Player One explaining the '80s to a little 2-year-old. That's what I mean. I'm sorry, dude. It's just
And-
But this
it's
comes-
not
and-
time
but-
marches
but-
on. It's complete crap.
Well, that's the thing I'm trying to make here is that.
It's the
I
idiocracy. It's the dumbing down of cinema. I mean, people are they're automatically assuming we're complete morons when we go to the cinema, and everything has to be explained to them because we want it to be good for the 80 IQ Forrest Gump that's coming in off the street and buying his popcorn too. No, we're intelligent. We can handle it.
Robert, take that.
Sorry.
Take that monster.
It's empty, dude. Obviously.
See,
the
you say
point-
we're intelligent, but the general public itself, I feel like, has to have things explained.
All right, screw the general public.
But you can't do it because that's what they're doing to make the money. Like I
Right,
get what you're
exactly.
saying, I do, but they're
And
not pandering to
so-
you though. They're pandering to everybody else that needs.
So
to
there you
have
go.
their
And
hand held.
that's where art goes out the window because you're pandering now. You're not making a decent story or a film. You're not following story structure. You're pandering to the complete
Right, but-
lowest denominator.
But that- but
now-
that-
This is the
now
maddest
this is-
you've ever been.
Now, this
Dude, that stuff pisses me off.
5 episodes. This is like the maddest you've ever been.
I am really going to take a stand against Mike here because I don't think it is the dumbing down for the lowest common denominator. You have 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds who never even saw the 90s going to films now.
Okay, and
I
what was
mean,
your reading level when you were 12 years old? It was adult, wasn't it?
Sure.
There you go.
But you know what? When I was 12 and it was 98, I didn't know jack shit about the 40s and the 50s. And you're asking these kids who are 12, maybe at most 17
Maybe
right
if
now.
they would pick up a book and put down Minecraft, they would know about the 40s and the 50s.
I gotta finish my cast.
Wow, that is a condescending statement.
That
about
is a
movie.
very condescending statement. But you know, why do we sacrifice story structure and good storytelling?
Because that goes with the time we're in right now.
Exactly.
As sad
It's
as
all
that is,
about fucking money.
That's where we're at.
All right, but don't tell me it's good and that it's, you know, I mean, it's not good. It's condescending
All right,
crap.
let me ask you this: doesn't that apply to the things you like too?
Huh?
Does
Like-
that not apply to the
Such as?
Well, I don't know. I'm saying your own argument would logically imply some of the things that you like. There's an anti-Mike somewhere that is looking at the things that you like and saying, "God, that's awful crap. Why do you have to have it explained to me like I'm a 2-year-old?" La la la. But you think it's a good movie. So that's what I'm saying is you're trashing Ready Player One, but somebody else would trash something you like and say that it's an
And
awful
that's
movie.
totally fine.
What I'm saying is, does your own argument? All right. Does your own argument not apply to yourself? Like how do you not be? How do you not have a circular argument for yourself? Like you're saying, this movie sucks because it whatever, but that same logic applies to a lot of the movies that other people like, including yourself.
The people the IQs that because it's well done and
No, I'm
they-
saying
they-
that- all right.
Oh, sorry.
No, the things that you. All right, I don't want to take 3 hours to
Let's do it.
to get into this, but like, all right, you're basically saying that. Okay, here's a movie. It has the '80s. I lived through the '80s. I don't need to.
Okay, well,
have it
and that was,
explained
and
to
that
me.
was, but that was, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that I lived through the '80s. I mean, all right, I know about the '80s.
No,
Everybody knows about the '80s
that-
now.
that's just
the
one-
'80s are
that's-
huge.
I don't know. I
Are
don't
you-
know about that. Especially
But
when you're
you
talking
did-
about
you
people
did
who are
live through
going
the
to
80s.
film.
I know.
now.
Turn on the radio or Spotify right now and see see how long it takes for an '80s song to come up.
Yeah, I agree. The 80s.
Okay, '80s are huge right now. Everybody's aware. I mean, It is back. It's from the '80s.
Well, the new one.
Yeah, Stranger Things is on right now. It takes place in the '80s. Every school right now is having Spirit Week. One of the days is '80s Day. Dress in your favorite '80s outfit.
And when I grew up in my high school, it was '60s because it's such a far divorced time frame from now.
Now they stop it. They do. And if you can call Quincy High right now. '60s, '70s. They do '60s Day, '70s Day, and '80s Day, and they stop because none of the other ones are relevant. Sometimes they'll do a flashback to the '40s.
But
Nobody
it's
knows. You know,
It's important to point
I
out,
know.
not put out. It's
Sorry.
important to put out too.
Yes. We do not
How-
condone anti-records.
Well, I do.
I'm putting out.
What era? Is
If
your,
you do,
But wait,
print-
we condone
What,
researching
what
child
era
If
is
you
your,
do-
your
if you
parents
do
from?
put out
60s? Did they go to
half
school in the
protection.
60s?
Yeah, my parents relatively young. They were 70s.
Okay. Point is that they're the ones paying the bills at that time, meaning that that's the kind of things that they want to be or see. Maybe they don't realize it, but that's the sort of thing that appeals to a certain generation at a certain time that has the money, is their own generation. What did life look like when they were growing up? Whoever's the one holding the checkbook at the time. Right now, it's the '80s because that's what it was. I mean, the people who grew up through it, whatever, are the ones that are making the money, so they want to be reminded of just how great their past was. Let's go back to the '80s, yay! And it'll be popular for a while, and then it'll be the '90s.
No, it won't.
That is the exact point that I was trying to make.
Right.
Is the adults lived through this time, the kids have not. And to go back to a movie we talked about on a previous episode, Winter's Tale, a woman in Winter's Tale dies from a disease called consumption. And I had absolutely no idea what that was until that movie hit. I had never heard the term, I never heard of the disease, and
Polio, isn't it?
I believe it was
Tuberculosis.
tuberculosis. I had to look it up after the movie was to see exactly what it was. And the entire movie, I'm like, why is this woman dying? It's in Winter's Tale. It was in the
When did you watch it?
when it came out. I watched it in theaters.
You hadn't seen Tombstone before that,
I had not seen Tombstone.
dude.
So
Doc Holliday don't want to have to.
Doc Holliday died from consumption, and so did White Earp's wife.
Oh,
yeah, so I went through the entire movie going, what the hell is consumption? And it actually detracted from my enjoyment of the movie. And all they had to do was write in at some point, and because this is a time travel movie,
Exposition somewhere.
a little piece of exposition that went, oh, she died from tuberculosis when they did the time travel part. Or some sort of explanation, oh, this is consumption, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. Or like the most recent, the horror movie, that Crimson something.
Crimson Peak.
Yeah, Crimson Peak. That is another period piece that I was very glad it had plenty of exposition, because they explain what the waltz is. And while I know it's a dance, I didn't know how some of the importance of different aspects of the waltz was. And this is the same thing. It's just a different era.
Sure.
You to say that a 16-year-old is dumb because he lived through the 80s. He didn't live through the 80s. He doesn't know about the 80s. It's like saying that we're dumb because we didn't live through the 20s and the 30s.
I'm saying I'm well. First of all, I'm saying they're morons because they don't they don't believe in story structure, and they're not aware of it. Everybody should be aware of it. This is. I mean, you cannot. What are they playing in the mall right now? 80s music. You know they're playing 80s
Well, that's
music.
because of Lisa.
Right.
Yeah, right.
What are the fashions that are coming back? 80s fashions. If I thought the 90s were going to be a big thing, guys, I would have a warehouse full of Pogs and Beanie Babies. But it's not going to come back. It's not happening.
Give it a couple decades.
Yeah.
Okay, but
And eBay is a good proof of concept for this. I mean, I bet you $100.
You think
if
Pogs and Beanie Babies will come back?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. At some point, maybe not that. I don't know specifically what's going to be the hot thing, but I do know that nostalgia moves by the decade.
And look at how popular retro video game consoles are.
Sure.
Yeah.
So many people are excited to pick up Super Nintendo originals and Sega Genesis. I mean, that's all just us transitioning from 80s nostalgia to 90s nostalgia.
I also got to say, it's just not now that movies started to suck. I mean, it's
No,
not now.
I know. I agree
Yeah.
that, but I think they have gotten lazier and more stupid though. I really think that. I mean, for the most part, you know,
Yeah.
like I said, story structure is gone, and there's a laziness in presentation, and there's a lot of. It's more about personalities getting involved in the scripting. I mean, it's gotten really horrible.
as much as I hate agreeing with Mike, me and him never agree. I agree with him. I genuinely agree with him. When I watch realistic sci-fi films, or police procedurals, or drug-related, because I don't know shit about drugs. The remake of Miami Vice. As long as the
That's horrible?
actor, what?
It was horrible.
It was horrible.
That was horrible.
Hang on. Hang on.
Miami Vice was pretty bad. Yeah.
But as long as the characters are speaking the terminology with confidence, and I'm watching them be like, well, clearly they know what they're talking about. It's like I get it.
I got to throw something down here that's a pet peeve of mine is education through Hollywood. And
I'm not saying I'm
no,
being
I'm not.
educated.
I know you're not. I'm not saying that you walk out of there thinking that you've got a college education in drugs because you watched Miami Vice. I'm not
I
saying
know I
that.
have a kilo.
No, that's The
kilo-
Wire.
Right, yeah, that's The Wire.
The
Let's
Wire,
see how
man.
great
I'm
a
so tired
TV
of
show
The
that
Wire.
is. No,
God,
what I'm
it's
saying
a good
though
TV
is
show.
is that
Move
people
on.
get they get snippets of education about something from a movie or a TV show. They forget about it for 3 years or whatever, and then it comes up in a course of conversation, and whatever they think that they now know a thing or two about a thing or two because they saw that movie. No one ever doubts themselves to be like, you know what, maybe Hollywood just threw that in there because it was convenient, and they really didn't do their research. Everybody thinks that these directors sit there and do copious research, and no, they don't. And most of the stuff, the nonfiction, the kind of reality stuff that they're is referencing is very overblown and totally, just contorted for the script's sake, and has nothing to do with reality.
I got 2 points. Oh, I'm sorry, Robert.
No, that's fine. I was going to say I have a friend that actually any movie that says it's based on actual events, he will take that movie as that's how it happened. That's how everything went down.
Exactly.
And I cannot tell him any different. Like the movie Lawless, all right? He thinks 100% that's what happened.
Yeah.
I even brought up the backstory. I was like, look, man, just read it. Like, half of that stuff didn't even happen.
Right.
Well, yeah, Amityville Horror. I think just like the first 5 minutes of that movie is the one that's actual based on the true story.
Everything else is
cinema.
Yeah.
Everyone swears Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it says based on true. It's based on Ed Gein,
Right.
who didn't even live in Texas.
Well, they're like several great horror movies are based on Ed Gaines.
Yeah, but they're like because I okay.
Is it Gaines or Geens?
Genes.
He's
Gein?
French. He's French.
He's French.
So it's,
Oh, here we go.
He's French.
okay, real quick on that.
Yeah.
I was watching the remake, the one that just the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm in college. I'm watching it. Have you guys seen it?
I did.
Yeah, that's
You did.
Is that the one with Lee Army in it?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Came
the
out,
opening
what,
is the cops going
07,
through
something
with the thing, and then at the very end, it's the cops going. It's the continuation, and you see this is the last known footage of the. There's a woman in front of me, and he's still around? I'm like, no, you fucking moron. Like, they thought that was actual police footage.
2003.
2010.
It's, first of all, why would the police allow that footage to be in an actual...
I thought that when I saw that ghost movie, the found footage one. What the hell was that? Paranormal Activity.
Oh, Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, and it's like, thanks, courtesy of the such and such police department. I'm like, what
Yeah,
the
right.
hell?
Hey, see, I like that as immersiveness. Like,
Right,
I
right.
really,
It draws
really
you in.
enjoyed that.
The Blair Witch Project, I bought into it. I knew it wasn't real, but it was just fun to buy into it.
But that's the
knowing
thing.
it
What
was-
sold that though? Actually, before that movie came out, the History Channel did a huge piece on that, of the actual story of it. And I watched it. It was like a 2-part thing, and the actual story really helped me with the movie. I still didn't care for the movie,
Right.
but it made me like it a little bit more, knowing the things that they didn't fill in for me in the movie.
Yeah, I like little immersive pieces like that, like the police stamp on Paranormal Activity.
But you're smart enough to know that it's not actual police.
Well, yeah, of course.
Right.
Like one of the things I watched is a Netflix special movie. I think it was called Hotel or something like that, Hotel Hell or something. But there was 2 of them, and the first one, like they're going through like this haunted asylum and everyone dies. And in the second one, spoilers, sorry. And that's not even the right name. I don't even know. That's the Gordon Ramsay movie or the Gordon Ramsay show. Yeah, I don't remember the name of it. But in the second
It's
one,
Double X.
huh?
When in Double X, we were talking about it's XX.
Yeah, we talked about XX a little bit.
Oh, that's the one you're talking
No,
about?
no.
Oh, my
and
fault.
this one, in the second one, the basis of this is people who watched the first movie, and the first one was shot as like a paranormal, a Ghost Hunters style shot, and they watched the Ghost Hunters movie, like the actual movie that you watched the first one.
Oh, no,
and then they go.
Yeah, and one of the characters from the original is in the new one. Right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's the
he's
one.
gone crazy.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, shit,
I
what-
love that
yeah, I like that.
immersiveness.
Yeah, that was
that
really
hey, we're going to establish the first one as a movie, and in the second one, they're going to watch the first movie. I love
couldn't
Like
be-
they
I
did with
couldn't-
Human Centipede?
I couldn't be more vague. Mike.
Yeah, they did
Dude
that.
in-
Oh,
dude in
okay.
the first
And they call
movie
me a
about the
pervert.
thing.
Dude with the thing in the movie.
Yeah, it was like,
we'll
maybe
talk
it was
about Human
Asylum or
Centipede.
something.
This is the
Maybe.
guy
I
to
love
talk
Human
to.
Centipede.
Oh,
Man,
God.
I've seen all those shock movies.
Is
like-
the third
Oh.
one any good?
no,
No.
that's garbage.
What
No,
about
it's
the
just as
opening
bad
with
as the
Springs
first two.
Forward?
Well, I would rather watch 1 and 2 over the third one. The
I'll
third
give
one
you
was
that.
done just like they knew what it was at this time. Like they're just doing what they can for shock value,
Yeah.
and that's really all it is. So you don't really get any enjoyment out of it. I mean, I didn't anyway.
The best thing about this the Human Centipede movie was the South Park episode based on it that took
Human
shot at
Centipede.
Steve
Not
Jobs.
bad.
But okay, before I forget, going back to people getting their education from films. I got 2
Films
okay.
and TV.
Films and TV.
TV does worse, or does most of this
Well,
miseducation.
I hate people who get their news from The Daily Show, which I
Okay.
guess technically they're probably more accurate than Fox News. But anyway, people get so when they were going, kind of bringing it back to our topic, when they were adapting Fight Club, there's a scene in it where Tyler Durden teaches a narrator how to take human fat and soap,
Make soap out of it.
and
yeah.
make it into a bomb.
Oh, right, sorry,
Make
take
it
fat into a bomb.
So
Right.
the director went to the author and was like, "Is this the?" Or no, excuse me. He took the script and he had a friend who's in the military, took it and be like, "Is this the actual formula for this?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's actually how you do it." So the director went to the author and was like, "You can't put the actual formula in the script
Right.
because people."
Well, in Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan's talked about that. He's like, we've paid some close attention to how to make meth that you can pretty well, like the way that they have had things written or whatever. I know I'm butchering this to some Breaking Bad fan boy or whatever, but he said that they had a DEA consultant on there saying, no, you got to leave that shit out. No, don't put that in there because they'll
Yeah, because so David Fincher
Yeah.
said they took there's A, B, C, D, and E steps to make this. They left in A and B, left out C and D, and they put in step E. So like there's
Well, and I think a lot of that is damage control because they're hoping that if someone learns how to blow shit up from watching a movie, they're going to come back and sue the movie people.
Absolutely.
You know? And I mean, so that
And another,
that stands to reason. That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh.
I mean, it is in some way, but that's cookbook stuff. That's like, well, that's not how you do it. Anybody smart enough to do that is going to go figure out the chemistry on their own.
Or they could Google.
Or they could Google it. Yeah, good download
well,
the
Google
Anarchist
wasn't the thing though
cookbook
back
or whatever.
in '99 when I think it was when Fight Club was coming.
There's a copy of the Anarchist cookbook.
Was
by the
Google
way,
around in
at the
99?
bookstore?
Google was
Is there
supporting
some- Yes.
Yahoo at that point.
Couldn't
Google
believe
hadn't
it.
Oh, no
officially
shit.
launched yet as its own site, but it was the search engine that Yahoo used.
Oh, okay.
They eventually broke off from them. Yeah.
What search?
Huh?
What, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Google originally was the search engine backup for Yahoo,
Oh,
and
okay.
then they broke off from them, and Yahoo became its own search engine. Google became its own search engine. So. Yeah.
Okay. Back
in
on track.
'99, if you search for something in Yahoo, Google.com didn't really exist yet. It would say powered by Google.
Wait, Andy, you didn't know that? Didn't you live through the 90s?
I did.
Oh, here.
Well, there's the Google origins there that I didn't know anything about their. I knew that it was a grad school project.
He was counting his pogs at the time.
Anyway, back on topic before we start shedding blood.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
What is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
top? What is it? What is the top?
It's a
Okay,
comic store. This happens all the time.
Absolutely, this is nothing new.
so adopting a book.
Adopting them?
Adopting.
I know.
Is that a hard, lengthy process?
Do I need a license for that?
Yeah.
I hate it when
What do I do with
people
the
give
book
up.
once I adopt it?
I got to foster a book first.
I only prefer books that I
I've got to find
can make myself.
I've got to find a woman willing to accept my sentences.
Son of a anyway, adapting a book into a flick. Okay, how closely do you need to adhere to the story? Can you just grab the overall? We were talking earlier about short stories. Can you just grab the overall tone, or do you have to have a strict adaptation?
You can do both. I think there are movies
Which do you prefer? Like Constant. I know it's a comic book, but when they were doing Constantine, even I think it was Garth Ennis. He didn't create him, but he wrote a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
He was okay with Keanu Reeves because he had the overall feeling of Constantine.
Well, Keanu's a great actor, though, too. I mean, it's really.
I'm finally.
I don't think I've
I
ever
am
heard
agreeing with
anybody
you
say
two
that, ever.
things. What?
Now the man, we don't need to talk about it.
No, okay. All right, let's get off topic again. Why don't you think Keanu Reeves is a good actor? Because me and Mike don't agree on a lot of stuff.
Hey man, if it makes anything better, I like him more than Nick Cage.
Oh, you're comparing Keanu to Nick Cage?
They're almost in the same
all
category,
the time.
man.
I'm with Robert on this one.
Oh,
I do it
thank
all
you.
the
What
time. I
the
compare
hell
the
is
two.
I don't think
Their
I've
range
ever.
of motion is like Nick Cage, Keanu Reeves. Like that's it.
I don't think I've ever read any script notes where it said, "Oh, we need a Keanu Reeves, Nick Cage type." It's one or the other.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh
it's.
my god.
Yeah,
No.
I think
With both those guys, my problem is when they try to sell something, when they try to sell me their emotion, I just
thought
don't
you
buy
were gonna be
it.
the problem with tonight's podcast.
I just don't buy their emotion. Ain't trying like Nick Cage is way worse, but Keanu Reeves I feel is the same way. Like maybe it's just I always think of him from Bill and Ted, but
They play themselves.
they do. I
that's
just-
exactly it. They tend to play themselves. I mean, Keanu Reeves
Keanu
plays
Reeves is not a karate master who enters the Matrix. He doesn't play himself.
not
He's Keanu Reeves
skills
in the Matrix,
wise,
man. It's still
but
Keanu Reeves.
personality wise.
Yeah,
I feel like his
that's the
character is
issue.
very similar to who he is.
I feel like
How-
there's no range
and
of
I've
emotion.
seen a lot of Keanu Reeves movies because I enjoy a lot of his movies, but
Mike,
not
call me
because of
back.
him.
Did you ever watch Johnny Mnemonic?
Dude, we talked about
the
that.
guy
yeah.
with the
Yeah,
laser
Johnny
thumb whip is
Mnemonic.
awesome though.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay,
yeah.
you're back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, laser.
But
Yeah.
he plays like
He plays Neo
He
in
plays
Johnny
Neo,
Mnemonic.
that's what he does.
He plays.
You think? You can't distinguish between Neo and Johnny Mnemonic?
I
That's
think
a
they're-
totally different.
Okay,
I,
how do you?
I think they're very similar
Okay.
characters.
Okay,
Maybe
all right.
the way that
Johnny
the way
Mnemonic is a
that
completely
All right.
self-obsessed person.
Pull this one out of your ass. John Wick, Ted S. Preston, Esquire. How are they the same?
now I'll give you that one because
Because you've got
he
two,
has,
you've
because
got
he has
two completely
evolved
different
in
genres,
the
though. I mean,
years.
one has to be a no-nonsense BA guy, and the other one is part of Wild Stallions.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like
That is the second Wild Stallions reference this week in the store. Just saying that out. But there was a martial arts movie. I think it was a Man of Tai Chi.
right. Great movie.
Yeah, it's a
And
fantastic
he
movie.
was the bad guy in that, man. Come on.
And he was, but I did not see his character that much different than the character with John Wick. The
Right.
personality wise and the way he portrayed
yeah.
those
Anytime he tries
characters.
to play, like
I mean, sure,
what's he
there's-
in? 47 Ronin.
46, great movie.
Sure. But he does that same BA personality type, which I still he's got the
he
same,
didn't
man.
have,
He
he didn't
does.
have a VA.
The
You
only
didn't cuss,
diff-
by the way. You didn't have
No.
The only difference
Just because
is
you're a
the
dad.
weapons he's using.
Don't play
like-
the dad card.
Like what is Sword in 47 Ronin? I haven't seen
Yeah.
it.
You don't need
Guns
to,
and
man. When's
Guns
the last
and
time you
John
took a
Wick.
shit? Because we watched it.
Gun and John Wick. His
When's
mitts
the last time
and
Jean
tight.
Claude made a good movie?
How about all the time?
Street Fighter.
To be fair, he stopped making good movies around 2001.
When he
The
stopped,
Quest.
when he stopped doing coke.
Dude, everybody became less fun when they stopped doing coke. Okay?
All right, I can't argue with that one.
That's right. The Quest was the last 2 theater decent JCVD movie. After that, it was all
They made it
USA
to the theater?
special. Yeah, I did. I saw it in theaters.
Wow.
Expendables.
You did not save any
2.
syllables by abbreviating that. You said.
Expendables. Did you
Like
like the?
WWW.
Did you like the one where he played himself?
In
Did he-
JCVD,
Did he commit suicide now?
in JCVD, the one where the bank robbery happens, is that the one you're talking
I
about?
thought he played himself in
No,
it.
well, there are two different things. The movie
Okay.
JCVD, he plays himself, and like the down on his luck, broke Van Damme that he is.
Right.
But then
Coked up.
the newest pilot episode for Jean-Claude Van Johnson, where he plays himself and then becomes a secret agent,
Oh,
is
I don't-
hilarious.
I don't
You
know
should
about
check
that.
that out.
That actually is pretty funny. I watched that
All
one.
right, going back to Keanu Reeves. Like,
I don't know, I
look,
like where this is going.
Point Break.
Is like Speed.
Admittedly, I haven't seen Point Break.
You haven't seen Point Break?
I have not seen Point Break.
Oh my god.
Speed.
There are action movie
Yeah.
cliches because of that movie.
Absolutely.
What-
The
okay.
screaming
Have-
in
have
the
you
screaming
seen
in the
Hot
air,
Fuzz?
firing the
I
gun.
have
That
seen
came
Hot
from
Fuzz,
Point
yes.
You
Break.
know why they roll on the ground and shoot the gun up in the air?
Every action
Because
movie
of Point Break.
But that doesn't make
Oh, no,
Keanu
no, hold on.
Reeves
Point Break,
iconic.
is that the one
though.
where they're robbing stuff and they have the masks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't know the name of the movie. Yes, I've seen that where they're robbing and they've got the president masks.
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so I have seen that. Okay, my bad.
But the question is, are the things that became popular because of whatever Keanu Reeves movie for whatever reason, is it because they're popular because it's funny? Because it's Keanu Reeves? Because if you would have placed any action movie in Point Break, let's say whatever action star at the time,
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
let's JCVD. It's obviously would be a joke by today's standards. But at the time, would it have been the same movie? There would have been a lot more roundhouses, and I would have enjoyed the movie way more. But when things have carried over because of JCVD, or is it just because Keanu Reeves is such? I don't want to say joke. I feel like that's harsh on him.
All right, okay.
Now I think Keanu Reeves is a reasonable actor in the way that he can grab one character and he plays that one character.
Right.
And anytime that the script calls for that particular character, he can come on screen and he does a great job. Don't get me wrong. Keanu Reeves has done way more acting than I have, and he's done a fantastic job at it.
That's going to change. We're making
Like I
movies.
watch his movies.
But he plays the same person. I don't watch a Keanu Reeves movie for his dynamic acting. There is range of acting.
Right.
Okay,
You know,
all
he is
right.
not. He is not Joaquin
like Tom
Phoenix.
Cruise.
One of the
Well,
reasons.
you can. Oh,
Look, one of the
I
reasons I
think
actually like
Joaquin
the
Phoenix
John
has a
Wick.
very good range.
One of the reasons I actually like the John Wick movies is because Keanu
Mike's
Reeves,
ready to shut
because Keanu is so wooden and just stale with his performance. That makes me buy the John Wick character. Like, okay, he's just no nonsense. He's got that same attitude. He's level-headed the whole way. I buy it because that's Keanu Reeves. He plays that well.
Okay. All right. Comic book fans. How many comic book fans we got?
All
Almost everyone.
comics are for nerds.
How much Hellblazer have you guys read?
None.
A lot.
DC's garbage.
Vertigo.
Vertigo. Whatever. Don't they own?
A
Aren't they
few
owned by
issues,
DC?
but I've not read a whole lot. I read a little bit more of the Rebirth stuff.
Well, shit, Mike, this ain't gonna help us. Since we're
No.
both- Keanu, you cannot. First of all, he is basically. They should have casted Paul Bettany because he basically looks like Constantine.
Right.
But I buy Reeves as, and they liked him so much that in one of the novelizations they mentioned Keanu Reeves as Constantine. It was one of the book novelizations of Constantine stories. They
Was it
mentioned
written by Mark Millar?
That's going to be a thing.
Don't try to church it
Hashtag
up,
Millar.
Mila.
That they liked that the comic book world liked Reeves' portrayal so much that they were talking about alternate dimensions of Constantine, and they mentioned how there's one Constantine that has black hair and wears a. Did you read it?
Huh?
Did you read that?
No, but I've read the wiki.
Oh, okay.
I feel like the problem with the Constantine movie was not Keanu Reeves acting. Again, that script called for a particular character, and Keanu Reeves is as in
He has
his
to
limited
maintain
range,
through the movie.
a limited range of acting. He can do that.
He didn't have to
character.
get happy or very sad. Like he was just melancholy.
No, I gotta see that.
Yeah, so I think the problem with Constantine movie was not Keanu Reeves. That was not my gripe with the movie.
Okay, all right. So, overall tone or strict adaptation. Let's talk about some really strict adaptations. Watchmen, very
That's-
strict until it wasn't strict, and
panel for panel.
everyone flipped a bitch on that. I personally didn't care. I thought it was all right.
It was okay.
Because within the story it's set up, it didn't make sense to have a giant squid monster.
The way they set up the story and because they cut out all of the sci-fi writers and the creating of the alien, they cut it out. So yeah, you had to have a different explanation for the ending of Watchmen. But I feel like the reason that it doesn't work is because it changes the tone. Because at the end of the Watchmen book, you get this feeling that everything's okay, that the world's going to unite. They're going to look for an alien that they can never find, and you don't have that in the Watchmen movie anymore.
They got Doc Manhattan.
You have Dr. Manhattan,
Until he leaves the button.
who is an American citizen created by an American science that you may find somewhere in the universe. So yeah, the world's going to band together to get this one guy, but someone is going to say, hey, after 20 years of searching, we haven't found him. It's the Americans' fault. And all the wars start again because there's still a human on Earth to blame somewhere. And that really, to me, changes the tone and the feeling of that adaptation.
Any strict have you ever went to a movie and saw a pretty strict adaptation of a book you enjoyed until it deviated off? I feel like Psycho is a pretty.
I saw a
strict
TV series that it didn't deviate, and piss me off, but I thought it was really well done. Is Generation Kill on HBO. I read the book while I was
Is that
still
where
on
the
Paris
phrase?
Island.
Is that where the phrase
And-
"Stay Frosty" came into popularity?
Yeah, that was in the book. But I mean, the TV show did a fucking fantastic job
Did it vary
at
at
getting
all?
down to the real, the details. No, it didn't really vary at all. But then again, that's a nonfiction thing. I mean, you can't be like, well, this is my interpretation of the invasion of Iraq. No, you got to stay true to the facts. So, but no, I was very impressed with Generation Kill. Loved it.
That was a fantastic series. I haven't read the book, but the show was great.
Robert, any?
But nothing, man. Keanu Reeves wore me out.
I feel like this is the least progress we've made on any podcast. We've been fighting so much.
Is it fighting or is it good table talk?
Nah, fair enough.
That's what it is.
Fair enough.
Wait till he reads Ready Player One, comes back with the Nobel Prize nomination, and we really get into it.
Talking about
We'll see how the book goes.
Yeah.
talking about adaptations of books. I said it right.
Adoptions.
Yeah.
Get it
I
right.
can see posters for
Try
adopting books.
doing it with a French accent. Adaptation.
Okay, here are some films that are not like the book. Okay, if you guys have any, throw them
Sure.
out. But The Shining, the original, not
Okay.
not the TV.
Sure.
Yay, nay. Fans of the book, fans of the movie.
I've read the book and seen the movie many, many, many times.
Which do you
and
prefer?
I prefer the movie.
I think Kubrick's version is scary as shit.
I've got
Man.
such a Woody for Kubrick, man. It's
That
not
movie
even
takes
funny.
so
I
long
love
to get
Kubrick
going,
movies.
though.
But-
What is
but-
it, like 45 minutes to an hour before?
But yeah, I agree.
And I understand you need setup, but do you need an hour's worth of
But
setup?
doesn't that movie just make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up?
Honestly, no. It really doesn't. It doesn't bother me at all.
I like
What?
the movie.
Shining.
It doesn't scare me.
Yeah,
What
I'm
if-
not
never-
saying I
never
don't
done
enjoy
it
the
for
movie.
me
I do
either.
enjoy it, but at the end, I'm just like, all right.
What if Jack Torrance's wife, when he was chasing, just like roundhouse kicked him, Jean-Claude Van Damme style?
Dude, look,
It's for me. It's hard to do a horror.
nobody
movie.
is scared of Popeye's wife. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay, all right, fair enough. World War Z.
Oh, terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I remember I saw that
I-
the Clark 54 drive-in. I miss that place.
That
that the
World
one
War
with
Z
Brad
was.
Pitt?
Yeah, it's been closed for maybe
Yeah.
2-3 years now.
It is. Yeah, we saw that. I remember that.
Yeah, you were there for
Yeah.
that one.
Mike, Die Hard.
Well, obviously, Die Hard is one of the ultimate pieces of artistic expression and of our time.
Yeah,
You know
It's
what?
right up
one
there
of
with
the-
Tolstoy.
It's not
Dostoevsky.
not only is it the great piece of cinema, it is also the greatest Christmas movie ever made.
It is indeed a Christmas movie. I'll agree
Oh,
with
man.
that.
You know what would make it even better? If Keanu Reeves.
There is absolutely nothing that could make Die Hard better than what it is.
Jason Statham could make it better.
Yeah, that's
Every,
true.
from the
And that
foreshadowing
follows
to
his
the
formula
I
because
mean,
he's only in one-word movie titles,
Yeah.
so he could be entire.
Isn't Die Hard 2 words?
No, that's one word.
Hard.
If you say,
It's
if you
German.
say it really fast.
Trust me, it works.
Okay, this one. Okay, what about Troy? Based off
the Iliad. Yeah.
Troy based off the war.
Did they even take,
Based off the city right outside St. Louis.
I mean, was there
change
any
the story but
connection
keep the
between
names.
the
That's
two?
right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
there was huge differences. First of all, there's no gods.
No.
Actually,
were there any similarities?
Here's what I.
Oh, similar.
Yeah. Oh, it is very different.
There was a war in Troy. That was similar. They had the horse.
That
Oh,
is.
they had a horse.
They had
Yeah.
a horse.
That is one of the few times when Brad Pitt just wanted the money.
But no, I don't know about
hated
that.
him as Achilles.
He was.
Yeah,
he
he
just
was.
wanted the money. He was
He
there
was.
to get butts on
I
seats.
don't know.
And,
Who else did you want other
And
than
here's
that
another
male
one.
Adonis?
Brad Pitt, also up there with Keanu Reeves, is one of the finest actors out there today. And
Agreed,
And he just wanted the money for that film.
I don't agree
because
on
normally
that.
he makes really good choices.
Right, but I don't agree with that because that was Plan B's. That was one of Plan B's first movie, and that was him and Jennifer Aniston's side. Their
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I agree with you. It was a horrible Brad Pitt
You know,
film.
Yeah.
I think actors mature. As they mature, they often they increase their range. They start off being a movie star,
Yeah.
and often can transition into being an actual actor. And Will Smith, I think, is a good example of that. You don't think so?
Oh, Will Smith has a credible range.
That's
can
what I
do
mean.
no,
But he didn't
really?
He didn't used to.
anything.
But he didn't used to.
Dude, yeah, to be fair, when he started, he wasn't.
No, he was
That
still the
good.
Fresh Prince.
That's
No,
what
no,
I mean.
no. He's a way better actor than he
And
first
to be
started.
fair,
But
had he chosen to do the Matrix movie when they offered it to him, would have
Yeah.
been way better.
Yeah.
you suck.
I,
Oh,
way
come
better.
on.
No, but what was that? Oh God, that one.
Okay,
No. Will Smith. No, there's no way the Matrix would have been better with Will Smith.
Way better. You just think of it that way because you can't picture
the 50
you can't
the
picture
50
Will
close-ups
Smith.
and the little comic sideline. No, come on, dude. Neo was a serious
as a-
character.
as a
What are we in?
sci-fi
Some
actor.
kind of Matrix?
This looks like some kind of Matrix. Yo, where do we get a beer around here?
God,
No, come on,
this
dude.
This must be.
What Will Smith movie have you watched? I mean, in
How about Suicide Squad?
But
And he didn't wasn't
was
stupid and jokey in
Absolutely.
that.
Yes, he absolutely
As a snarky
was.
assassin,
Close
right?
up to snotty. It's a snotty joke. Won't wear the mask. Close up on Will Smith as he makes the comedic sideline.
He should have worn
trying
the
to
mask
get you
more.
there.
He
Yeah.
should have worn the mask more.
Yeah.
But I mean, what was it, After Earth? What was that? That one?
That was the one. With
Yeah,
the
I mean,
I,
the
Robot.
movie-
doesn't that really star his
The
son? more
movie
than
was
anybody?
But
movie
After
was
Earth-
bad,
That's the
but
one
his
with the
character
dog.
was
What-
way
I can't
different. It was
I don't.
I'm
I
Legend,
don't.
yes,
There was
that's
I
the
mean,
one.
look, like the Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
I feel like that was
Yeah.
a good
Damn
range
good
of his.
movie.
Absolutely. Pursuit
When
of
has
Happiness
Keanu Reeves
did a
done anything
fantastic
like that?
job.
Sweet November.
I love that movie.
I don't
Yeah.
remember. That.
Charlie Theron has cancer. She takes him into it because he's like some rich hoity-toity jackass. She's got cancer. She takes him into her apartment. I think if I'm not wrong, he like loses all of his money or something, and she teaches him how to live, how to actually be happy in life.
So
And-
when he becomes happy, do you also feel happy for him, or is it just like,
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves is happy now? All right, awesome.
yeah.
Are you saying that just to build up your own argument? Come on, man, just be honest. If you're just like, all right, good for you, Keanu.
First of all, Afterlife is Scientology propaganda bullshit.
Okay.
Uncomfortable
stoned.
silence.
Yeah, I was throwing that.
Yeah,
out.
Gay baby
So
born.
Afterlife.
I mean, the Scientology sniper's looking in right now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We have nothing against Scientology. Praise Zeno.
Yeah.
Isn't that Tom Cruise? Isn't that his religion that he
Yes.
Yes.
propagates? Like,
Yeah.
isn't that like the Hollywood? Okay.
Yeah, that's
He's
So-
like
so-
he's like the
Kiflam.
Pope of that religion or something.
Yeah. Is
I love that they blew him up in Preacher. That was awesome.
I know.
Spoilers, he blows up in Preacher.
Yeah, he does. First episode.
Yeah. Where are we at here? Okay, so what about, okay, a little side note here. What about movies that became books? Movies that became books. Here we go. Gremlins. They were changed into aliens in the book.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Gremlins, you just can't do that in book style. I mean,
They
if we
may
don't
do-
have Hooker Gremlin, it's just not Gremlins.
Well,
I,
they're making a third one
yeah.
right now, and that may become a plot point.
Is
so
the
let's not-
original director doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all coming back.
If they're not Muppets, I'll be very disappointed.
Oh, yeah.
Please do not
No, if they
CGI.
see,
you can't just
they
CGI.
will. You know they'll
Come on,
CGI
Howie
it.
Mandel.
That's kind of like I want a remake of Critters.
Well, look, they just
Oh
fired.
my god, yeah, you're back in. Back in.
I like how I just keep stepping out of the circle and I go back in.
Well, Disney didn't Disney fire Jim Henson's or well, no, they fired the guy that does the voice of Kermit the
Frank-
Frog
Frank
because
Oz?
Frank
no,
Oz.
not they didn't know it wasn't Frank. It was
Oh,
the guy that does the voice of Kermit.
They better not.
That's been doing the voice of Kermit for the last 3 decades because he
Is he
didn't
the
agree.
same dude that does Megatron? No, that's Frank.
That's
Oz.
Frank Welker.
Frank Welker.
Yeah,
That's who I
anyway,
was.
they fired him
Sorry.
because they didn't agree with he didn't agree with their vision of the Muppets, which basically means that they're going CGI because it's cheaper instead of and they're going to So Jim Henson originally would have stuck with the creatures, and I think that's probably over the Dark Crystal stuff.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah. Their Netflix is doing something with that.
Yeah,
A miniseries or a
I
movie.
mean, Muppets is dead the moment that you move away from the puppets.
exactly. Then it's just voiceovers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jaws 3 was turned into a book. The change was
It was not in 3D anymore.
excuse me.
Jaws 3, what did you do?
Jaws the Revenge. I'm sorry, was turned into a book. Sorry, my fault.
Okay.
It was changed into the shark is hunting the humans because of a voodoo curse.
Right on. Okay, I got to read that book.
Wait, they Weekend of Bernie Jaws? That's what?
Is that why he was still alive, Bernie?
In the second one, it was a voodoo
Oh,
curse,
okay.
yeah.
I wish they'd novelized Sharknado.
Well, it's happening. Didn't you see those satellite pics? There are actually sharks in Irma.
What?
They're sharks. They showed satellite. These are actual
That's
satellite.
Sharkane, not Sharknado.
Sharknado. Okay, but there actually are sharks floating around. They
What?
picked up and they've done.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I oddly enough watched a commentary on Sharknado, and it's an actual phenomenon where in these hurricanes and water spouts,
yeah, fish,
it'll
but-
pick up a shark
Oh,
and
my
it'll
God.
throw the shark. The shark does
Fine.
not turn into a wood chipper like mouth that flies through city though.
But when it,
Son of Sharknado.
But yeah, it's a legit phenomenon.
okay, the novelization of Halloween, which came out before the movie. Michael is not a cold-blooded psycho. He is possessed by an ancient Irish demon.
They kind of allude to something like that in the later films, though, that he's not human and he's possessed by.
Yeah, there was a cult, wasn't there?
Yeah,
The five or
I mean, they
something,
get it. They
about
get
that.
into that, and obviously, he's a supernatural being of some sort. I mean,
Right.
but then
This-
so is Bruce Willis in Die Hard because nobody could survive that shit in real
This
life. They went through all that.
Is a weird podcast. We must be an alternate dimension because me and Mike are getting along.
I know, that's weird.
Okay, it's going on an hour and a half. Let's wrap it up. Any real quick? Any books you'd like to see adopted? Any books you'd like to see adopted
I'm
to
very
a good family?
I'm very excited to see the
Ready Player
adaptation
One.
of American Gods by Neil Gaiman.
Absolutely.
And I
okay.
really hope they do a Nancy voice. That was a spin-off book from
American Gods is already. I mean, we're already.
Yeah.
We've completed
Say
season 1.
Nazi boys.
Huh? A Nazi voice.
Anasazi. Right? Yeah. Anasazi boys.
Yeah, it depends on how you pronounce it, but yeah, I've...
Well, it's how they pronounced it on
art of
X-Files
racing
when they went to
It's
do
a really
it.
good book.
Fair enough. Learning from Hollywood.
I don't know. That's how Mulder pronounced it, man. I don't-
It could be. What do
But
you-
Good Omens. Good Omens.
Oh,
Yeah,
Good
Good
Omens.
Omens.
That was one of my
Yeah,
favorite
Good Omens
books.
is coming out, and that's going to be awesome.
Oh man.
Robert,
I don't read, man.
did Jean
remember?
Claude Van Damme make a book? Write a book?
Dude, you can't capture that stuff in story form. It's impossible.
Andy,
I'm not finished reading it yet, but Cryptonomicon by Neil Stevenson.
quick rundown. What is it?
It's a book about history, time travel, cryptography. It's pretty good.
I want to see Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk adopted, and I want to see The Creep, the comic book about the guy who's got the disease.
Mhm.
I bought it from
Yeah.
Underdark Comics, Quincy, Illinois. Anyway, okay. Any recommendations? We know ones we want to see. Any recommendations of ones that's already been?
Shawshank Redemption. I mean, it's a classic.
I agree with you. I agree with you
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
What?
Andy?
We're talking about movies, not books, right?
What are you
Alright.
asking exactly?
What do you have any recommendations of books that's been adapted? You guys got me.
Books that have been
second-guessing.
adapted to
Thank you.
movies. What movies should people go see?
You guys
Oh.
got me second guessing my own words.
Well, I didn't know if you were asking for a book recommendation or
Both. So you
okay.
recommend
Book
a
should be turned
book?
into a movie that gets turned into a book?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like Victor Victoria,
section.
only with like.
Probably what?
what was that? What was that? Was it where they're like fighting the insurgents or whatever with the embassy? Remember that?
Argo.
No, it just came out. Here
Oh,
pretty
is that
recently.
13 hours?
Yes. Yes, that was based
John
on
Krasinski?
Yeah, that
I will
was,
never. That's a Michael Bay flick, so that's gonna be.
Well, it was damn good. Damn good. You turned me on to one. I don't think it was a book ever. It was called Sicario.
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 Benicio del Toro?
Oh
Did
my
you like
god,
that?
I loved it.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
it's so
that's
good for
one of the few
TV.
movies he doesn't die in.
Man, that scene by the border, my butthole is tight as hell. That is a tense scene. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh, that is
Honestly,
a
that
tense
movie, though,
scene.
I felt like Emily Blunt, like her part could have been played by anybody.
Yeah, fish out of water.
Yeah,
What
just
are we
like-
doing here?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't even need to be there.
I'm gonna. Yeah.
Any recommendations?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Oh, you get.
I'm good.
I want to. Man, I got a lot this time. I want to recommend Fight Club, the movie Fight Club, the book Fight Club. Stanley Kubrick's 1956 noir The Killing, based off of Clean Break, which is where Nolan stole the clown mask they wear during the heist.
Any Kubrick film, though. I mean,
Which-
Kubrick's
well,
not. Hasn't
No, I'm
for
just
Barry
kidding.
Lyndon.
That whole bank
That one
robbery
sucked.
scene of Batman, I hated that so much.
You're back out.
Dude,
You're back out.
There was a lot of flaws in
there's a
that bank
lot.
robbery.
You mean the bus pulling out into a line of
yes,
buses?
I agree with you. Like,
It was not Ocean's 11 Batman's version.
All right,
It
you're out
was.
by
It was. There was some rough spots in that bank
Ocean's
robbery.
11. Okay, Ocean's 11 is the gold standard for that robbery scene. Are you
I'm
talking
just
about
saying,
the
it's
original
like-
or the remake?
Probably. Well, pick one. I mean, you have this elaborate.
Okay, the original Ocean's 11 I can see, but the George Clooney, Brad Pitt Ocean's 11 is not exactly the gold standard for robberies.
Well, no, that's how it works out. But you have this elaborate
Yeah.
plot, and that's what they were trying to make. This elaborate,
Yeah.
crazy plot,
And
and,
then you
none of
shit
it
on
works.
it
None
right
of it
there at
makes
the
any
end.
sense, and it's just terrible.
and okay, I want to recommend a YouTube show, Cineflix. What's the difference?
I watch them.
Yeah, good. And I want to recommend Psycho, based off of Psycho.
Which one? The new one? The old one?
Well, the new one.
Clearly
based-
the remake.
Well, yeah, the
I
remake.
Well, there were
there
like 3 different adaptations at the same time of the same novel that Psycho, the Psycho novel.
Really?
Yeah, I think, it's on the wiki. Look at the Wikipedia page for Psycho, kids.
Do you want to plug Underdark Comics?
Absolutely. So we are recording at Underdark Comics and Games in Quincy, Illinois. Check us out on Facebook at Facebook/Underdark Comics, as well as check out our website, UnderdarkQuincy.com. We got all of our events. We got new comics up. It's a great place. Come in and stop and see us.
And then go to SoundCloud, type in Damage Control Podcasting, all one word. That's where all of our podcasts are. Contact us as DamageControlPodcasting@gmail.com. Someone say some comment. Say
Now,
something.
Let us know what you think.
If I go through your site, can I adopt a book through that also?
Please don't.
Hey, can I
No
get
matter
your
what she
mom's
comments,
number
don't
to
ask for
the
Adam's
SoundCloud?
mom's phone number.
Yeah, come on. Someone besides my mom leave a comment.
Hi,
And Tyler's wife, who never shows up anymore. And welcome back to Andy. It's his first podcast back.
Yep.
Okay.
What? I don't get a hello.
And Nick.
Thank you.
Oh,
Did you
podcast
see
virgin.
the
I don't get
Sandman
anything.
fan film
And
on
Robert.
YouTube for
Thank you.
24 Hour Dinosaur?
Yeah.
Robert.
No, I did
What?
not.
Who's
Check